Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. You have arrived. Hello, hello. We are speaking today all about stress-free holiday eating and cooking, which can be really tough. Really, really tough during the holidays. So, who am I? Great question. My name is Tanya Freirich. I am a lupus I go by the Lupus Dietitian. I am a registered dietitian and a lupus warrior. So, I very much know how it is to live with lupus. And of course, as a registered dietitian, and have been for more than a decade, I really know how to counsel people, to help people find the best diet, the best lifestyle for them for long-term sustainable results. So thank you again so much for joining me with Lupus LA. Thank you, Lupus LA, for having me. I'm so excited to speak with everyone about how we can make the holiday season a little bit less stressful. And starting with some big ideas. And we're going to have time for Q&A at the end. So certainly feel free to submit your questions. You can type them in the chat. We did get already a couple questions about stress-free holiday eating and cooking. So I'll be sure to answer those at the end. Don't despair, but I do want to get through the content first, and then that way I can spend plenty of time answering everyone's questions. All right, so let's get started. The holidays are a really stressful time for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you all have experienced this. The first and foremost idea or priority is to acknowledge that it's a stressful time, and it's totally okay that it's stressful. Sometimes the holidays bring up a lot of feelings, whether they may be grief or sadness, loss during the holidays. Maybe you don't have a family member there that's available to you and that was in the past. Maybe it's nostalgia for other times. The holidays can bring up a lot of feelings. Perhaps there's someone in the family that you're not getting along with, and then the holidays bring that stress to the forefront. So I would definitely acknowledge whatever feelings you're going into the holiday season with, and take a breath. Acknowledge those feelings. Maybe think back on years past and reflect on what was helpful in terms of what you did versus what was not helpful, so that at least we're starting from a place of being proactive instead of reactive. You're on, I guess if we're doing sports, you're on the offense instead of the defense. So just acknowledging those feelings is a great place to start. Now, once we've acknowledged those feelings, what are we going to do about them? So strategize. We want to think about the holiday season as a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's a lot of events that may be coming your way, a lot of responsibilities, obligations, a lot of cooking, a lot of meals out and about with other people that maybe you don't have control over. So let's strategize those sorts of things. Now, lupus warriors, I certainly can empathize. Back when I was first diagnosed, fatigue is a big deal. It really can impede on how much you want to do, and can kind of lower the amount of the to-do list that you can get done in a day. And that's okay, until you get to a place where you're feeling a little bit more energetic. Unfortunately, we may just have to embrace the amount that we can get done on the to-do list, maybe a little bit shorter, and that's okay. So what can we do in terms of eating and cooking that can keep that in mind and be okay with that? So first and foremost, we're strategizing, we're acknowledging we've done that. Now look at the calendar. Realize what may be on the to-do list for the next couple months. Maybe there's, I don't know, depending on how popular you are, maybe there's 10 events that are coming up. Maybe there's 3 events. Maybe a couple family dinners are over that you're hosting. Maybe you're going somewhere for events. So look at the whole calendar. Obviously, it's a little bit early in the season. Maybe you don't have everything scheduled out yet, but at least have an idea of some big things that are coming your way, what will be impeding upon your schedule, and how we can plan for them. Maybe, hopefully, you have some fun stuff planned too. Maybe you have a weekend getaway or you're traveling to see family. So we want to look at the schedule, think about how many hours of free time you usually have, and then how much less you may have. Maybe it's shopping for gifts, maybe it's wrapping. So food prep in terms of maintaining a healthy lifestyle may need to require a lot less time now. So let's talk about how we can prepare in bulk. So planning for those days when you don't have much time is a great way to kind of get the most bang for your bite and time. So things that we can do in bulk. It's certainly colder in most places as we go into November and December and January. So if you like soups, that is a fantastic thing to make in bulk. You can literally throw everything in there for a lot of soups that are not temperamental. Put the burner on maybe medium and then come back later. So you don't have to be standing there. You don't have to be monitoring it. You also get a lot of portions from one recipe. And I definitely recommend make it as big as possible. Double the recipe, triple the recipe. If this is something that you really enjoy, you can enjoy it many, many times over. And what I would recommend, obviously you're not going to eat soup for 3 meals a day for the next week, is going ahead and putting some of those in Tupperware, preferably the glass ones, and freezing it. So that way, maybe for the next 2 months, things that are frozen last quite a while. You can take out one of those soups for a lunch. Maybe your Sundays are going to be really busy, so that doing the food prep for Monday is going to be really difficult, and you don't want to go to a fast food restaurant. You want to have a home prepared lunch. Well, now you have a nice soup that you've prepared. You know what all the ingredients are. It's home prepared, so presumably fresher ingredients. And now you can just take it out of the freezer. Going forward, every Monday, you have your lunch already prepared. So that's one recipe that can give you a lot of time saving and prevent a lot of stress going forward. Soups are very easy. Slow cooker or Instant Pot, that's very popular these days. Or crock pot, that's another name for essentially the same thing. You're going to be putting it in something that can control the heat and cook for a very long time in a safe manner. Obviously, we wouldn't want to leave a pot with a gas stove or electric stove going for 8 hours, but these sort of self-contained options are much safer, and you can turn it on when you go to work, and when you come home, everything's done. Now, beans, for example, proteins, you need some sort of liquid or sauce in there to keep it moist. Those are great options to put in those kind of bulk containers, and those are pretty big too. So let's say, I don't know, a chili would be another example of a soup, but you could just do like cooked beans, maybe let's say 2 or 3 packages of chicken with your favorite sauce. Then that could be, again, the proteins that you have put away, you put them in the freezer, and now you can mix and match them over the coming weeks and maybe even months with other vegetables and grains. So you've done at least one portion of it, and you're not eating the same thing again and again and again on repeat. You're spreading it out so that you really took one recipe and the time that it took to prepare one, and save a lot of time when you know your weeks are going to be very busy or stressful. Other ways that you can kind of plan ahead and strategize, besides those sorts of leave it, let it cook. You don't have to stand there and feel tired in the kitchen stirring a pot. Also planning ahead in terms of if you have any sort of dietary restrictions, it's really important that you are well fed. So stress-free also can sometimes mean the mental burden, or just making sure that you have food in your system. I don't know about anyone else. When I am hungry, I am very hangry, which is hungry and angry. I get irritable. So I know that if I am going to feel feel less stressed, I need to have food in my stomach and be well fed. So if you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so flustered, I have a million things to do, a million errands to go on, and you don't eat for a very long time, besides the fact that it will completely sap your energy, you are going to feel so tired and so low. It also can contribute to feeling more anxious, more overwhelmed, and more stressed out. So, with that in mind, let's say you have a big errand day in front of you. Pack yourself a snack, pack yourself a lunch. They are such a throwback, but those little tiny thermoses that you can put soup or hot food in, and it keeps it hot for a very long time. I mean, you can put anything in there, rice, beans, chicken with veggies, whatever you like. Go ahead, put it in there. At least you have a nice hot meal, maybe between errands, or you can stop at a place that you really enjoy, and you know the food is good and that makes you feel good. And make sure that you're nourishing yourself, because if you're not planning ahead, it is very easy to get wrapped up in a million things that you have to do. But I promise you, you will feel much, much better if you take those breaks. Now, if you're going to an event that perhaps you know the menu isn't going to agree with you. Maybe you have no idea what the menu will be, but you know that you don't want to go there hungry. I would recommend actually just going ahead and eating before you even get there. If it's not a full meal, at least like a half of a meal, so that you're not going into a situation ever feeling desperate, especially for those with dietary restrictions, because unfortunately sometimes with these, let's say it's a holiday party or you're out and about in the, maybe not in LA, well, they probably do, but in the colder areas, maybe it's like a winter market where there's ice skating and there's just little stands. I'm sure in LA you have plenty, or in California you have plenty of winter markets with food trucks and vendors. You may not know what options are available, and if that makes you feel like a little, I'm already kind of hungry, or I know I will be hungry, I don't want to feel the stress of like having to eat right away, having something before you leave your home is a great way. Also, if you have maybe a potluck where you know, ooh, I'm not quite sure about this food, go ahead and eat ahead of time. That potluck actually brings us to the next point of another way to plan so that you can be less stressed is, if there is a potluck, make sure that you're bringing a dish that is very filling for you in a couple different ways. So maybe in your stomach filling, but also like emotionally filling. So if you're going to a potluck and you're worried, I may not be able to eat the other food that's available, at least you have something that you know is something you like and you look forward to, and you can eat that and maybe cobble together some other things. And make it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. The other point that I wanted to make about potlucks is ask for help. So if you're looking at your schedule for the next coming months and you're worried about how much cooking you're going to be having to do, how much energy you will spend on this, how much time you're going to be standing in the kitchen, maybe this year is the year to say, hey guys, I'm not hosting Thanksgiving, to whomever that may be. Say, I really need the help. Can you bring this? Can you bring this? So it's not all on me. I actually have a client of mine that I'm working with one-on-one, and she's catering her Thanksgiving. She said, I just don't want to spend the energy with this. I have decided my energy is in short resource, and thankfully, obviously working together, she is getting a lot more energy because we're making diet and lifestyle changes, so that can change. But if you're in the midst of it and you're not feeling your best, don't overstress yourself. So that point that I made earlier of strategizing is also saying no to things and maybe renegotiating how much needs to be on your plate or on your to-do list in terms of how much you're going to be cooking for other people. Maybe do the potluck, maybe do a catered meal, maybe say no to an event that you really weren't excited about. Back also to the strategy component of your holiday cooking and eating is think about when we're acknowledging our feelings at the beginning of whatever those may be. Maybe they're positive feelings too of, oh, I'm really excited for event A, B, and C. So prioritize those three events. Make sure that the night before the event that you're really excited about, you didn't commit to another event that you're not even that keen on. So making sure that your holiday season also includes the things that bring you a lot of joy and that you have the energy for them is really, really important. So unfortunately, that may, for lupus warriors, and honestly, for just everyone, the holiday season can be crazy. That may mean that you have to say no to other things. So really try to not overwhelm yourself. Think about the holiday season overall. Do things in bulk. Have your meal always available to you. And then also talking about maybe you don't have the time to do something in bulk, but you want to make sure that you're well nourished, which will help with that anxiety and stress and energy. Just have things at home that are really, really easy to eat. So, for example, if you love oatmeal in the morning, maybe do the overnight oats. So that again requires a little bit of prep, but you can do multiple days all at once. You add the oats and whatever the milk or non-dairy milk in the night before, put it in the fridge, let it soak overnight, and then in the morning it's ready for fresh fruit, nuts and seeds, whatever seasonings you like. That can be something that's really, really easy, but is giving you a meal that's very satisfying. So making sure that you also have like those easy to combine ingredients around is a great way to make sure at least you can just grab something, even if it's not a complicated meal that you've prepped. You have some backup snacks and things for you. Other ideas for stress-free eating and cooking is kind of paring down the recipes that you do make. So maybe, let's see, maybe you want to bake cookies and the recipe calls for like browning the butter and doing something complicated ahead of time. You can always pare down recipes and a lot of times they come out great. Maybe previously you used to chop all of the vegetables for whatever the recipe may be. Maybe now, especially for our lupus warriors that have some joint pain or stiffness in your hands, maybe just invest in one of those, I forget what they're called, but you push them down and they essentially are dicing everything that's in there. There's ones that just you push down. There are ones where you kind of pull down the lever. Regardless, there's a lot of tools out there that can make something like that much easier. Maybe the food processor. Also take advantage of kind of cost savings. We're actually going to talk about, I believe it's November 30th. That's my next Facebook Live. So come back for that one. That's all about budgeting for the holiday season, making the most out of your budget at the grocery store. Obviously, these days is even more important and more prevalent for people in terms of a concern. But take advantage of something like pre-chopped frozen veggies. So you don't always have to get fresh and do all of the prep work yourself. Sometimes actually people, and again, we'll talk about it more with budgeting, they take advantage of whatever is in season or whatever is on sale. So for example, blueberries during the summertime, great sale. Although you Californians, you get lots of things all year round, which is amazing. So whatever's on sale, buy it, a lot of it, and then freeze. Again, I've said freezing a lot of times, so please bear with me if you find it repetitive, but it is a really, really great way to take advantage of something. So maybe you can freeze those blueberries and use them in your overnight oats, or use them in muffins. Also, you could buy the frozen broccoli instead of the fresh broccoli if the idea of taking like that big head of broccoli and chopping it down into little pieces and florets feels overwhelming to you. So that's another way to take advantage of some time saving and effort saving options. There's all sorts of tools and fun little things that you could have in the kitchen. I know some people just put things in the food processor to dice it down. But your energy and taking the time to also do self-care is really, really important. So if we can shave off time from other things, even better for you. And actually, on a note about self-care, very, very important to make the time to sleep, to meditate or breathe in deeply, or look at a sunset, or go on a walk, whatever you can do that just brings down that stress and helps you take that moment to yourself is really, really important to then be able to go back to your busy schedule with a much more even keel, a much more level head, and really be able to do those other things: planning, strategizing, budgeting. Those are all really high level executive brain function. And if we're stressed, if we feel like super flustered or on the defense, we're not going to be making those great decisions. So taking that time for self-care, whatever that looks like for you. So maybe it is walking, maybe you enjoy journaling, coloring, doing yoga, watching videos of like cute little animals, whatever brings you joy. It doesn't really matter. It's just important that it helps you. But taking that time for self-care can also really help reduce the stress of the holiday season with eating and cooking. And now we're actually to the point where I wanted to start taking questions. And let's see. Oh my goodness, we have so many. Great. And also, I'll make sure to answer these. Oh, and hi, Christine. Welcome from Ohio. I live in North Carolina, so I'm not even in California. Thank you for coming. And let's see. Okay, how do you safely store and reheat back up frozen soups or meats when you make Instant Pot meals? Oh, that's so great. What a fantastic question. The easiest or the fastest way that's safe? Great question. So, in the microwave, if everyone knows this and has experienced it, the microwave doesn't heat very evenly. So it has pockets of very hot food, and then pockets that's very cold. So that's a little bit tricky for reheating. Some people will put it in the microwave. If you want to, you can defrost it in cold water, whatever it may be. If it's meats, if it's soup, you can defrost it in cold water for a little bit. I like to just put it back in a pot, and with a little bit of extra water, and essentially bring that water to a simmer, and then put a top on and keep it at very low heat, and then it will heat more thoroughly that way. So that's two different options. You can microwave it, but I would recommend microwaving in bursts and stirring it. I don't prefer microwave that much. I like just putting it back in a pot and heating it up. But like, let's say if you're taking your soup to work, there's no pot or kitchen, so the microwave is what's available. What's important is that you're eating and something that's semi-healthy. Oh, and then defrosting. Don't let things just defrost on the counter. This is very important. So you do need to put it in cold water, especially if you're taking out something like raw meat, raw chicken, whatever it may be. If you just defrost it on the counter, the portion that's out to the air is getting too much heat. That room temperature is in the temperature danger zone, which is between 40 and 140. And so that putting it in cold water helps it defrost more evenly. Oh, great. Tips for if they're cooking or hosting for types of meals that are easier to make or cook for a group that would give you less time on your feet. 100%. One of my favorite things to recommend to people is sheet pan meals. And you can actually do this on several sheet pans. So let's say you wanted to put, I keep saying chicken just because it's so easy and a lot of people eat it. And it's also very durable, especially if you're using, and not in a gross way, but especially if you're using chicken thighs, they can stand to be a little overcooked and they're still juicy and moist. Chicken breast can dry out, so you do have to be a little bit more careful. Anyway, sheet pans, like cookie sheets, you can put chicken thighs, you can put tons of vegetables all in the oven. Let it roast for 45 plus minutes, depending on the size of your veggies and the chicken pieces. And you don't have to stand there. It just cooks on its own. You can season it differently. You can actually make multiple sheet pans. So for example, this is also a great way to use one cooking session and get so much out of it. So let's say you want to do chicken thighs, maybe with a sauce, maybe just seasoned. Then let's say you want to do broccoli with garlic. On another portion of another sheet pan, you're doing carrots with cinnamon. Maybe on another portion, you're doing onions and green beans with slivered almonds. So now you have three different sides and one protein that can, again, mix and match for a lot of meals. And all you did was really season it, maybe toss it with a little bit of oil and put it in the oven, and then you get to go rest. So that's a great question. Those are really some of the easiest things. So roasting, other types of meals that are easier to make or cook for a group could be kind of just things that don't require a lot of standing at the oven. So sometimes people really enjoy, or at the stove, sometimes people really enjoy casseroles, like a sweet potato casserole or like a ratatouille. Again, you're baking it. So you've done the prep work, you put in your effort, now it gets to go in the oven and it's beautiful and it's done. I would recommend staying away from things that are kind of energy heavy. So for example, risotto, you have to stand there. You have to keep stirring it. And then you keep stirring it. It's exhausting. So if that's just not the energy level that you have, don't do it. How can we cut out sugar with the holiday desserts we make? Oh, thank you so much for asking. This is a great question. So we can use applesauce. You'd be surprised at how much you can just cut down the sugar. Let's say the recipe says 1 full cup. You could actually probably get to 3/4 of a cup or half a cup, and the dessert is still going to taste delicious. Some things are certainly a little bit more temperamental, like cookies are pretty forgiving. Brownies, things that don't necessarily need to come out very, very perfectly. So those you can modify the recipes a little bit more. Other ways to cut the sugars, I mean, you could just look for recipes too that are lower in sugar, that are using the applesauce. Maybe they're using fresh fruit that is in like an apple pie, for example. You're getting a lot of the sweetness from the fruit. And if you cut down the sugar a lot on that, it's not changing the structure of the dessert. So that's another way that you can just make it a little bit less sweet. Less inflammatory dessert options for holiday dinners for lupus patients. Great question again. So definitely using fresh fruit is a great way to get some of that benefit and the natural sweetness. You're getting vitamins and minerals from that fruit that you wouldn't get if it was just like a sugar and flour type dessert. Other ways that you can make things less inflammatory is including spices. So ginger and cinnamon and turmeric and all of these wonderful spices that you may associate with the holidays are really anti-inflammatory. So take advantage of more and more of those. I really love doing things with cinnamon, and that actually helps us with our blood sugar control as well. Let's see, more questions. Oh, Christine, thanks for sharing that you love buying frozen fruits and veggies. Definitely, yeah, when your hands hurt. And one thing I do recommend actually for anyone with Raynaud's, which has a lot of overlap with lupus. So let's say your fingers get white or blue, that circulation to them, sometimes they tingle, sometimes they hurt, they feel very cold. So if that's your problem with your hands, then actually keep like mittens or gloves beside the freezer so that when you're going around fishing, maybe you have to move things to get to the bottom, that you're not allowing your fingers to be touching so many very, very cold things. That can help make that experience a little bit more pleasant. Are vitamins retained better in frozen versus fresh? Yes. So great question. Usually when they're doing frozen fruits or veggies, they're freezing it pretty much at the source. So you're getting the freshest possible thing to be frozen. As long as that hasn't defrosted and refrozen, the freezing process is maintaining a lot of the vitamins and minerals. So it actually may be preferable to eat something like that than, let's say, a very sad, wilty vegetable that's been sitting on the grocery shelves. Or, let's be honest, sometimes we buy things and forget about them in the fridge. That may not have as much vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals as that freshly frozen and maintained that frozen state vegetable. So don't be scared of frozen spinach. It's fantastic. You can throw it in a lot of things, and you get a lot of nutrients from it. All right, well, that's all the questions I have seen so far. I will give you all maybe a few moments to submit any other questions while we're here. And I am also just going to check over my list of all the things that I wanted to say to people and make sure that I didn't miss anything. Oh, the last thing I did want to say is that the holidays don't have to be stressful. They can be actually wonderful and full of joy and full of connection with your loved ones. So I think prioritizing, taking that step back, prioritizing what do I want this holiday season to look like? Um, and of course, there is giving yourself a little bit of grace. So if you're having a really tough time with your lupus, you're flaring, maybe you're in more pain, maybe you're having very low energy time, give yourself the grace. It's hard. Living with a chronic illness is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. And don't additionally beat yourself up because you can't do the things that you really want to all the time. It's a hard thing, but if you can give yourself grace, give yourself a little bit more room for resting, I think the holidays can be a lot more pleasant and wonderful. Oh, another question. How long do you need to defrost in cold water for it to be safe? That's a tough thing because it depends on the package and the sort of food that you're defrosting. So veggies, for example, you don't really have to defrost them. You can just cook from frozen. We're not worried about that. However, raw animal proteins like chicken, fish, meat, we don't want to just start cooking it because the inside is still going to be frozen and it may not heat to a safe temperature or cook all the way through if you're cooking from frozen. So it depends on the size of the food. Thanks for that other question. Great questions, everyone. All right. Well, I think that's about it. But please, 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 everyone in attendance or watching later on, follow me. I am at the Lupus Dietitian. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can find my website, www.thelupusdietitian.com. I work with people one-on-one in terms of private nutrition counseling, and then I also have a group program that will be starting soon called Live Better with Lupus Academy. So I try to help as many lupus and autoimmune warriors as possible to feel their best and to really be able to take advantage of the holiday season. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to end the live, but don't hesitate to reach out if you're seeing this later and you have more questions. I absolutely love talking with people and I would love to answer your question. So thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.